So, artificial intelligence is literally changing everything we know, right? But legendary investor Howard Marks is asking a really tough question. Is it all just one giant, massive bubble? Well, we're going to dive into his latest memo and find out.
Okay, so this is the question, isn't it? It's what every single investor, every tech founder, and pretty much anyone paying attention is trying to figure out right now. Is all this excitement for AI totally justified? Or is it a mania that's just destined to pop?
All right, here's how we're going to break it down following Mark's own logic. First, we need to understand what actually makes a bubble a bubble. Then we'll get into this fascinating idea of good versus bad bubbles. After that, we'll look at the red flags we're seeing in AI today, play devil's advocate with the counterarguments, and finally, figure out a smart way to move forward. So what even is a bubble in the first place? According to Howard Marks, it's actually less about the technology itself and way more about a predictable, almost scripted pattern of human psychology that just repeats over and over. You know, this is a dance that is as old as time. It always starts the same way. Some revolutionary new thing comes along and just captures everyone's imagination. Then, you see a few early folks get ridiculously rich, like overnight. And that's the trigger. That's what fuels this massive fear of missing out, this FOMO. And pretty soon, everybody and their brother is piling in, throwing all caution to the wind. Sound familiar? And this quote from Marx it really hits the nail on the head. It explains why we keep falling for this stuff. You'd think after all the crashes in history we'd be more careful. But he points out that the dream of that one life-changing payday it's too powerful to resist. But here's where the whole idea gets a fascinating twist. Marx makes the case that not all bubbles are just pure chaos and destruction. Some of them, believe it or not, even as they're bursting, can actually be a good thing for human progress.
So he basically splits them into two camps. On the one hand, you have what he calls mean reversion bubbles. Think of the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis. It was a purely financial fad that left absolutely nothing behind but wreckage. But on the other hand, you have inflection bubbles. Now these are built around game-changing tech, like railroads or the internet. They also pop, and they also destroy a ton of wealth, but, and this is the key, they leave behind world-altering infrastructure. So the billion-dollar question is, which camp does AI fall into?
This idea really comes from an economist named Carlota Perez. Her theory is that the irrational exuberance of a bubble is the only thing that can fund the super expensive, super risky installation phase of a new technology. Think of it like this. That bubble-fueled frenzy is what gets all the railroads built and all the fiber optic cables laid at a speed that would never happen if everyone was being careful and cautious with their money.
So here's the bottom line for you, for me, for any investor. Even if AI turns out to be a good bubble that launches us into the future, that progress is still built on the backs of investors who lost their shirts. The financial risk for the individual is absolutely immense.
All right, so let's take that framework and apply it directly to what's happening in AI right now. What are some of the actual warning signs of a bubble that we can see in the market today?
I mean, just look at these numbers. It's pretty staggering. A tiny handful of AI-related mega-cap stocks are responsible for almost all of the capital spending, all of the profits, and all of the gains in the entire market. That kind of extreme concentration is a classic textbook sign of a speculative mania.
Okay, now, hold on to your hats for this one. A startup you've probably never heard of, called Thinking Machines, recently raised a $2 billion seed round. That's billion with a B, for a seed round. And believe me, the story gets even crazier. You heard that right. $2 billion for a company with no product and a pitch that was basically, hey, we've hired the smartest people in the world, but sorry, we can't actually tell you what they're working on. If that doesn't scream speculative fervor, I honestly don't know what does. And you don't have to take my word for it. This is a direct quote from an investor who was actually in the room for that pitch meeting. It just says it all. The level of blind faith right now, completely detached from any fundamentals, has reached a point that even seasoned VCs are calling it absurd. And the list of red flags just keeps going. We're seeing sketchy-sounding circular deals where big AI companies invest in smaller ones who then use that money to buy products from the big companies, a trick that was super common right before the dot-com bust. We're also seeing a massive, aggressive use of debt to fund this AI arms race, sometimes hidden away in off-balance sheet entities. These are all signs of a dangerously overheated system.
Okay, but what if this time is actually different?
To be fair, you have to look at the other side of the argument, and Marx is careful to lay out the strong case for why the AI boom might actually be built on something real.
For one, unlike the dot-com era's whole build it and they will come philosophy, AI already has real products, with over 1 billion users and demand that is just exploding. Plus, the leaders here aren't flimsy little startups. They're some of the most profitable, most powerful companies in the history of the world. And we're not seeing that crazy IPO-a-day frenzy that defined 1999.
And the data really backs this up. Just look at this table comparing price-to-earnings ratios. Back in '99, a company like Cisco was trading at over 100 times its earnings. Today, the AI giants like NVIDIA and Microsoft have valuations that are, well, way more reasonable. In fact, Microsoft's P ratio is literally half of what it was back then.
So what do? We've got this incredible case for a bubble and an equally strong case against it. Well, this is where Howard Marks really gives us a clear principle for how to think about moving forward in all this uncertainty.
And this is a really, really key insight from his co-CEO, Bob O'Leary. In a technology race where it's winner take all, you need the unlimited upside that comes with equity, with ownership, to pay for all the companies that are going to fail. It's just simple math. With debt, your potential gain is capped at your interest payment, but your downside is losing everything. That math just doesn't work here. This just boils it all down, doesn't it? Of course people are excited. The potential is absolutely mind-boggling. The real question is whether that excitement has crossed the line into being irrational. And the hard truth is, no one can possibly know the answer to that until we look back on it years from now.
And that leads us to Marx's ultimate conclusion, his final piece of advice. The risk of being wrong is just so massive that going all in on AI would be completely reckless. But at the same time, the potential of this technology is so profound that being all out and ignoring it completely is also a huge, huge risk.
So what's the takeaway here? It's all about balance. The prudent path forward isn't about making some giant bet one way or the other. It's about taking a moderate, selective position and applying some really sober, disciplined judgment to what might be the most exciting and most uncertain opportunity of our lifetimes.
And after all this talk about markets and money, Marx leaves us with an even bigger, more haunting question. Forget the financial bubble for a second. AI is coming. It promises to bring incredible progress. But as it completely transforms our world, our economy, our jobs, what's the cost to society? And that might be the biggest question of all.